Milo, is that you?
There, I think I got it.
Oh, hello.
Oh, Jesus. Okay, I actually had hit the button before you did that. That was that's a little unnerving. So did you have fun at the at Tomstock, Chris?
Oh, fantastic time. I mean, I can't imagine it being any more cool or wonderful. It was, I was expecting it was going to be cool, but I did not expect it to be as fantastic as it was. And that's saying something, because I knew going in that Tom had done a lot of planning. He had put together all these great trips. I knew any one of those things would be a reason to go to Pennsylvania, but to have all of them strung together and then to see everybody there, folks that I'd only seen on the podcast or heard on the podcast rather, and meeting them for the first time was just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it was a pretty good time, that's for sure.
Very good time.
Who else? So you talked about meeting Kevin Marks. What about when you met Peter Borchert? Had you met him before?
I had, actually, at Springfield. Yeah. Yep.
Well, I had that experience with Matt Dawson. I don't know where I first saw him, but it might have been in the lobby of the hotel. And it was, the thing I find is, I don't really make a point of going, oh, hey, it's Matt Dawson, blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, hey, Matt. And as you're going by and you kind of realize, wait a minute, that's the first time I've ever seen that guy.
Right. It doesn't even occur to you because you've already been, in some sense together for weeks or months already. And so to see him in person is just incidental.
Yeah, years even.
Yeah, years.
Nick Carlson, I'd seen him. I guess I'd met him 2 or 3 times.
He was at Rochelle, the last one, right?
Yeah, I think he was there a couple of times. Or was it that's the second time anyway? I'm trying to think.
Well, the last one we had at Rochelle, he was there.
Well, Brad, you know what? I sat down at dinner on Wednesday night with David. I found David Start and his brother, and then he was sitting with Brad Williamson and David Yale and one other fella. I can't remember his name, but I remember you. You were younger than Brad. That much I remember. Send in an email.
Should go through the photos.
Yeah. Look through the photos. I guess if that's going to help me.
Yeah.
That
guy.
That guy. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that guy there. I don't know his name, but that's the guy.
Zoom in on his name tag.
But I'd never even met those guys, and Brad had only just started writing in maybe 6 months to a year earlier. So I mean, I said, "Oh hey," and I just went, "Oh hey, you're Brad Williamson."
That's very
blah
cool.
blah blah, and away you go. It's like
races.
And and there's no pressure. Like there's no pressure to remember people. Like when people come up to me and I've met them before, I'll just say I don't remember your name, and they'll tell me, and away you go. Like there's no pressure to like you say, first date jitters.
Well, the name tags actually, as much as we try to, kind of rank on them a little bit, at conventions or, at business meetings and stuff like that, they actually were pretty helpful because you might have just either the first name or you might remember the last name, but to have the name tag there, was just a nice prompt because, you might not, the voice
right.
a lot of times, but you wouldn't necessarily know what they look like. And then when you put the name to the voice, now all of a sudden, it's just like your old friends.
I refuse to wear a name tag. I don't very often try. I try very hard not to very often go, well, I'm Lionel. So, but I mean, Tom came up to me and said, here's your name tag. And I'm like, I'm not wearing a name tag. He says, well, how will people know who they are? And I said, if anybody doesn't know who I am, they can leave.
If anybody's part of the nation and can't recognize you.
They don't recognize who I am by now, yes.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Well, especially if you're talking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So anyways, we did some time ago. I'm guessing it was over a month ago. I don't know. It was a while ago anyways. It was more than 3 days and less than 6 months. We did Fans 53 and you were part of that group and we were all talking and suddenly I thought to myself, hey, I got to get Chris back on here because we need an update. Because number one, I've been giving you the gears about having that magazine article in Railroad Model Craftsman that you didn't really tell anybody about. And I probably will need somewhere. I'll need like a Monday show or a Tuesday show where I'm like, well, what am I going to put in there? And then your file will be right there, and I'll put Chris in there because
slot him in
there because there's lots to talk to you about. So first off, we got Chris Adams, Mr. Fitness, and the other thing is, I thought to myself after that weekend and spending that much time with you. One of the things I thought to myself, Chris?
I'm almost scared to wonder.
Damn, I'm ugly.
Oh, jeez. But you're a very handsome man for your age.
Yeah. So I went to my eyeglass place. Used to be I bought glasses to see. Now I just buy them for looks. So I think I'm now her absolute best customer. Lionel's here. So I've decided I wanted to get a pair of James Garner shades.
Ooh. All right, nice.
Because he always had them where they were brown and they faded out to more clear.
Oh, yeah.
And then I found the frame I wanted to put them on, and I thought, these are perfect. And so that's what I went. I ordered a pair of James Garner shades, only because I came away from that thinking, I got to do whatever I can to even look like I can stand beside Chris Fitness. And so now I'm going to think. Now I think what's going to happen is the next time we do one of these, I'll have my James Garner shades on, and people will be going, I don't know, man, that Chris, he's a good-looking guy, and the guy beside him, he's got cool shades. That'll be, at least
that'll be it.
Yeah, at least but at least I'll have cool shades.
Look at Rockford. Look at Rockford standing behind.
Yeah, exactly. But then the problem is, what people are going to think next after that. Man, I wonder what Chris would look like with those shades on.
Oh, there you go.
Well, you got good hair.
Yeah,
so
that's
true. Hair and shades.
Yeah, that's true. I do have good hair, thanks to my mother. My mother, when she passed away, she was in her mid-80s, and she still had basically black hair.
There you go, Bruce. Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so she still basically had black hair.
My great-grandfather had a full head of hair until he died in his mid-late 80s, and wavy, curly hair. I think I got my hair from him, but he turned gray when he was like 25 or 6.
I had a friend like that, Dan Nardelli. We played floor hockey together. He was 32 and was completely gray. Completely gray.
Wow.
A guy I went to high school with, he was bald in grade 12.
Oh, my.
Yeah.
And Dan was the one where I got the, he was a very dapper dresser. But I don't know, we were doing some hockey thing. We were playing hockey, either floor hockey or ice hockey. And we were all in the locker room. And we were giving Dan the gears because his hair, like we were all in our late 20s, early 30s. And we're giving Dan the gears about his hair being gray. And somebody said to him, semi-seriously, said, well, it wouldn't be that hard to, with Grecian formula or to get it dyed, go to the hairdresser and get it dyed. And he looked at the guy and he's like, I'm not doing that. And it was at that point I went, yeah, I'm never doing it either.
Exactly. You get what you get.
Yeah, you get what you get. You dance with who brung you,
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So if I scroll down on your page, will I see that article? That might be a good place to start.
Yeah, let's
I'm going to scroll down to it because I got some questions. I have other questions. Don't breathe. Whatever you do, don't. You know what?
Here's June 25.
Here's the other thing I wanted to say, and I know you're not going to be offended because you're used to me. You and Hard Part, I think, is this not a fair statement, Bruce, mailboy? Is this
not? Spread her out and we'll decide.
Yeah. Would Hard Part and Chris Fitness, would they not be our catalog models?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But they both have giant nostrils. So I don't get that.
That's why they invented Photoshop.
We breathe really well.
Yeah. You're good breathers.
We're highly oxygenated blood.
Yeah. So. Man, you have been doing a ton. We are not going to get through all of this. Holy moly. Look, okay, yeah. Look at what just came in the mail. So cool to see it in print. My very own. So, what's the deal behind this? How did you end up with this article? It was in the May 2022 issue of Railroad Model Craftsman.
Yeah, it was actually kind of cool how it came about. I had done some blog posts back, I guess it was like late last summer, sometime last fall maybe, and did a blog post talking about using these online colorizers to colorize black and white photos, because one of the biggest challenges of doing photo backdrops when you're a prototype modeler, and well, whether you're a prototype modeler or not, but if you're wanting to do photo backdrops of anything other than landscapes, and you model an older era, most of the photos that you're going to get, if not almost all of them, are going to be black and white. And so one of the biggest challenges is either, on the one hand, doing without anything other than landscape photos with just trees and foliage and stuff like that. But if you want any sort of buildings or anything that looks built up or developed at all, you're having to do a huge amount of Photoshop, Google Images maybe, and just older sections of town, and then having to go back and take out all the modern looking stuff. It was really easy once I discovered these online colorizers to take an old black and white photo, which will have old stuff in it, old cars, older looking buildings, everything of the right era. Run it through the colorizer, literally takes 30 seconds, if that, and you don't have to do much Photoshop to just plop that onto your photo backdrop, and you're off to the races. So I did a blog post on that, and shared it, and it was one of my more popular blog posts. And actually, I must have linked to it through from my Facebook page as well, because I try and keep the two both going. I mean, I'll do the Facebook group for kind of the day-to-day stuff, quick posts, instant feedback, which is excellent because I got a lot of people that give me quick feedback. It's a lot easier to comment on the Facebook group than it is on the blog for some reason. I don't get hardly any comments on the blog, but lots on Facebook. So I'll try and link them both together. And I got a message from Otto, who saw it last fall and said, "Oh, if you ever want to do an article on that, work it up and send it to me. I'd be interested in looking at it." And so I was just like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." It didn't seem like that big of a deal, because I figured, okay, well, by the time I get around to writing this thing, colorizers are going to be old news. Everybody's going to be doing it. Nobody's going to care. He's not going to want it. So it, and then the holidays hit and everything else, and so just kind of went off, off the back burner, off the stove, and onto the floor. And so I never, didn't do anything with it. But then, come hobby season, right around time of Springfield, I couldn't go to Springfield for a variety of reasons this year, and work was heating up, and I started getting back down to the basement and thinking, I need some. It'd be nice to get a little bit of extra hobby money for the hobby fund. Let me reach out to Otto and see if he still wants this article. And so I did, and he did, and I basically whipped it together, got some new photos of the layout. And the one main regret I have of this article is that the main photo that starts it off shows the state of the backdrop before I did anything with the foreground road and to match anything. And I've since done, using some paint and pan pastels, match the color of the road on the backdrop. And so now it looks phenomenal. If I don't say so myself, a lot better than this photo, which I'm kind of embarrassed is in the article now, because there's such a difference between the foreground road and the background. But that wasn't really the point of the article. The article was about colorizing the photo and being able to use these colorized historic photos in your photo backdrop. And it's a pretty effective technique, and doesn't the colorizing itself doesn't take any skill really at all. You have to know how to use a computer, and you run it through, and you've got a great usable image. The hard work comes in trying to integrate it well into the rest of your photo backdrop. So in the photo that's the lead photo in the article, having to blend each end of the original photo into my landscape photos that I took, just a few years ago, that was a bit of a challenge. And you use some pretty simple Photoshop tools to to blend things in like that. And that's where the real work is trying to blend that in. But the colorizing the photo itself is really no big deal at all. And this article shows you how to do that.
So with the colorizer, you just pop your photo in and it churns away in some algorithms and spits out something that you can look at?
Yep. The short answer is yes. And it's and I went through, I think, 3 or 4 different online processes that I wouldn't say it was a formal review of these in the article, but I did share my experience that I had in trying to find the best colorizer that I could that gave what I thought was the best rendition and most usable image at the end with the least amount of effort. And so I go into the article as to what different ones I tried, the pros and cons of each of them, and what I thought about them, and then shared what I thought was the best one, at least for this particular image. The other thing was it's strange because you would think that once you alight on a particular software, that you'll use that for everything, and that's not necessarily the case because, as you say, Bruce, I mean it's an algorithm which is way beyond me. I can't explain how they do it, but the different products will render the colors a little bit differently. And so I had another historic photo. The one that I used in the article was actually a photo that was taken in New Britain, Connecticut, that I'm using in Wethersfield because there aren't any photos that I've been able to find that are suitable for Wethersfield. But in Cromwell that I model, there's a historic photo of exactly the street that I'm modeling and exactly the era that I'm modeling. So
wow.
That was a fantastic find and the absolute perfect photo. But no matter what colorizer I used, everything, the result always came back a little dark, a little muddy. It required more manipulation in Photoshop to get some better color rendition. I mean, it was still a heck of a lot easier than starting from the black and white photo myself. It got me a long way there.
Okay, so what you're saying is you put it in the colorizer, and because it wasn't exactly the way you wanted it, then you put it in Photoshop. Yeah, I think you and I use the same thing, Photoshop Elements, right?
Yeah, yep, I sure do.
So you put it in Elements, and then through saturation and things like that, you're able to get the color closer to what you wanted.
Exactly.
What's the colorizer program? What's your favorite? Like I'm looking at one here called imagecolorizer.com.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one of the ones you use, or?
Actually, that is not even one of the ones that I had. Sorry about the cuckoo. I forgot to turn that off.
No, Bruce can talk whenever he wants.
There you go. Actually, the one you just mentioned, I'm not even familiar with.
Okay.
So that might have been one that's newer than even last fall.
Right, could it be even newer? Yeah. So this one, I just put in colorizer, and several came up, and this was one called imagecolorizer.com.
Oh, that's pretty intuitive.
You wonder how they got that name. So what's the ones that you use?
The one that I ended up using the most is one that is actually produced by a competitor to Ancestry.com. They're primarily a family tree genealogy website, and they have a colorizing portion of their website where I guess it's mostly used to colorize old family photos. But their colorizer I found to give by far the best overall saturation, the best what I thought were most accurate color renditions. For example, the photo that I used in Wethersfield, it colorized the Woody station wagon exactly how I would have expected. The other automobiles in the photo and the building. I mean, they all looked right. Now, there's no way that I know of that any colorizer can know from a black and white image exactly what the colors were, but it's going to make a best guess, right? So it's going to guess that grass is generally green, trees are generally green, or a little bit of variated colors. But to have colorized the automobiles fairly accurately, I thought was pretty impressive. And then one night, it was funny, during a little bit of lockdown, we had the photo library that I do for the New Haven Railroad Historical Association. We were doing a Zoom meeting, and I was showing them this shortly after I had discovered it last fall, before I did the article. And I was doing a share screen, and we were going through and just guys were giving me just kind of random railroad images black and white images that they always wondered how they would look in color. And we're just running these things through the colorizer. And then I found out very quickly that myheritage.com, the free side, only gives you 10 images. And after that, you got to start paying. so I blew right through my 10 images. Like, crud. Yeah, I'm going to have to.
That's why the Gmail's handy. We can create 1,000 email addresses.
Exactly.
Or pay the $9.99 and just be
Yeah, we could do that. But actually,
what is it called? myheritage.com?
Yep, myheritage.com. And I don't recall offhand what the pricing was, but you're right. It wasn't. Their basic site cost was, I think, $10 a month. But I think if I recall correctly, and it could be different now, but back then I think the colorizing portion was only available on their like platinum or their highest level. So it was
still, even if for argument's sake it's $49.95 a month, what you're going to get from it is priceless.
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I mean, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of this type of work, which, even for me that model's 1948, I don't expect I'm going to be using it an awful lot. I mean, I've done 2 images so far, and I can imagine that I might do 2, maybe 3 others. Everything else I'm just doing myself because I live fairly close to the prototypes, so I can take a lot of these photos, and a lot of the areas haven't changed all that much except for the fact that there's a lot more trees now than there used to be.
So you're taking color photos of the area, or you found photos and you're colorizing?
Well, both.
Okay.
Both, yeah, because this one guy that's there are 2 guys that have really been my muses really for this whole project, John Wallace and Max Miller. That I'm sure I've mentioned on the podcast before, but Max Miller had amassed a collection of something like 13 or 14 3-ring binders, and these are the big binders, like the 3-inch binders, just jam-packed with photos of this line, all the way from Old Saybrook, all the way up to Hartford, and even in some cases beyond Hartford up into Springfield, because the Valley line originally crossed from Hartford to East Hartford and then went up the east side of the river. It became what was called the Armory branch of the New Haven in later years, and came into Springfield from the east, south and east. But he's even got photos of that. But the point is that he has a lot of historic photos that he's let me scan, and so I've got the digital images that I can then run through the colorizers. Cool. But one of the things that I've been curious about that I haven't really had the nerve to start trying yet, because frankly it's a lot more work than what I've discovered here, is that a lot of the photo editing software now, I think Photoshop now has a colorizing module in it, is what I've heard. Yeah, so I don't think it may not be available for Elements, but I've heard that the latest version of a full Photoshop has a colorizer in it. But I don't. But that's all I know about it. I can't speak any more about it.
Anyway, so if people either go to imagecolorizer.com or myheritage.com, that's where they can find these. And plus, if they have the issue of the May 2022 issue of RMC, they can find some more places in your. Do you remember the name? So, did you do most of your work at myheritage.com?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, those other ones were fine. The upside of a couple of the other ones are that there's no limit to the number of images you can run through them.
Right.
So there's no cost associated. A couple of the others could take larger image sizes.
Right.
So, higher resolution. But overall, for the image size, the number of photos I was planning on doing, but most especially the quality of the end product, the myheritage.com, at least as of 6 months ago, was the best in my view.
Okay.
but who knows? I mean, as fast as this stuff advances, there could be something totally better now.
Well, exactly.
I'm not even aware of. So
that is one of the things. As fast as it advances, it's like I have a guy that I talk to occasionally about podcasts, and he's like, you could upgrade to X, Y, and Z, and I said, yeah, but what I got is working really well. And
yeah, exactly. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, I got lots and lots of people listening. And so anyways, okay, let's move on to July 4th. Pro tip for progress. Consider doing what you're in the mood to do rather than what needs to be done next. I like that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I should be doing structure mock-ups in Essex, but for some crazy unknown reason, I'm actually in the mood to do taping and on painting on the. So, what did you decide? Where's the? Because you had some pictures and you wanted suggestions about A, whether or not to leave the prototype photos up, and B, about what color you were going to paint your fascia. So, what did you finally decide?
Well, the short answer is I haven't decided yet.
Okay. Well, we'll decide. We'll decide tonight then.
Oh, maybe we will. but I think actually I think you were the one that was pretty strong advocate for getting rid of the prototype photos on the fascia.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, since I have, I had to take them all down, of course, to paint the fascia. Yeah. And I really am liking the cleaner look. I got to say, it's cool to have the reference photos there, but somebody else suggested, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to remember all the names, because this was a post that really kind of blew up. I forget how many comments on the fascia painting, and then comments to comments and replies and all this. It was really very cool. It was an interesting discussion. But so I don't remember who actually suggested it, but one person suggested having like maybe a little like scrapbook or a little photo album at each town. And if anybody wants, to flip through and look at the prototype inspiration for the buildings in that town, they can just look at the scrapbook or at the little photo album. So, I could have like that dangling on a chain or something at the agent's box or something like that. Or I could even have, an orientation binder or something at the the sign-in desk.
Yeah, just one binder at the sign-in desk. So if people have questions, they can go to the binder. And I like that idea. That's a good idea. That'd be a fun idea to have. So what color did you decide on the fascia?
Well, it's really funny because whenever I put for those that didn't see it, I had originally the wall color of the finished basement that was down there was like a tan,
It's
something like I'm a little colorblind, so
beige. It's beige.
Yeah, okay, beige. So it's this beige color, and so I had started painting the fascia to match the color of the walls in the room that for example, that old Saybrook is in at the bottom of the bottom of the stairs, to kind of have it all blend in and look nice. So I started using that, and it looks, to my eye, it looks pretty good. But before committing all the fascia to that color, I wanted to, try something different. My friend Bill Schneider is totally an advocate of the black. The whole theater thing.
Right.
The black fascia, the skirts, the valance, the whole deal. And so it really frames the layout. But I got to tell you, and I've told him, so this is, I'm not giving away any talking out of school, but he painted the ceiling black in the aisles, the whole thing. And it is very dramatic, and I know that he likes it, and frankly, that's what's important. If that's what he wants to do, that's fine. But for me, I go in, it just makes everything seem much smaller. I feel a little more claustrophobic in there than if it's more open, which is one of the reasons why I think I might not end up doing a valance, which I had always planned on doing, but I may not end up doing that. But that's getting beyond the fascia. As far as the fascia goes, I had tried to
So is this how you make $300 an hour? You just don't stop talking?
It's by the word.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just doing a discount right now. But the dark Pullman green, I figured I'd try it. And it's almost a black. I mean,
but it's got that green. That's what I went with.
It's got a little bit of a green cast to it.
Yeah, that's what I went with. It's the dark Pullman green. And then what I discovered was kind of what you just said, is I had painted the walls in my room. I had my room completely finished. It was a finished room before I ever started the layout. And so I had the guy, when the house was built, the walls were painted blue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I had the layout up, and I had the fascia up, and it was painted dark green. I went through a few colors myself, and then I settled on the dark green, the Pullman green. And but then I don't know, one day I'm walking into the layout room, and I'm thinking, there's something not right, and it kind of looked suspended. And then I realized, I don't know what made me think of it. I painted the walls underneath the layout Pullman green. And holy mackerel, did that bring the thing to life. That was it's kind of on the same vein as Bill Schneider, but I'm more like you. I'm not necessarily a Valance guy. So what I ended up with was the fascia was painted Pullman green, and the walls below the layout were painted Pullman green, and it really separated. Like you didn't even notice the space below the layout. That's what I found.
It's interesting that you say that, because I got to tell you, when I put the Pullman green up first, I was expecting to like it, and I hated it. And I brought Debbie down, and I didn't say anything about it. I just did that one swath in Wethersfield and then around the corner to East Berlin at the end of that aisle. And I brought her down and said, what do you think about this? She's like, it seems really dark. It just makes everything look dark. It's like, yeah, I really don't think I like it. It seems too dark to me as well. And then all the comments started coming in, and people saying, oh, I really like the dark green. I really like the dark green. It really makes it pop. You can really set it off. The tan should be more for Western layouts, and the dark green should be more for Eastern layouts, and all this stuff. And of course, me, a little bit of analysis paralysis. I'm like, oh my God, okay, now what am I going to do? So, the reason, I kind of went off on what you were saying about painting under the layout is I haven't tried it yet, but in my mind's eye, I'm imagining, okay, what is it going to look like when I do either the black or dark green skirting from the fascia down to the floor? Would that change my mind? Imagine how it would look like that, and does that change my mind? Because right now, the problem for me is whenever you go down that aisle, boom, the first thing you notice is the fascia, because it is so like in your face dark compared to everything else. But to your point, if I have dark, from the fascia all the way down to the floor, either because I paint the walls under the layout or I do this skirting, it's going to look more like it floats, and that's going to be more the look I'm going for, because above the layout, like you, it's sky blue. Yeah, and on the backdrop and on the walls. So
somehow it's
the skirting, I think, has more mileage in painting the walls, because then it allows you to hide junk underneath. Which
exactly, yeah.
If you just
you can always use a space,
and then
always, like any model router, they need some space to put something.
And for me, it was like, I am not doing the skirting because I'm going to end up just piling it full of junk, and I'm keeping the skirting off. And I had a few boxes under the layout, and that was it. In one section, and otherwise I would have just...
And you had your DCC under there, and that was it.
Did you paint the benchwork, the dark Pullman green as well, like the legs and the bracing and everything?
Yeah, I painted everything that was under the layout, that dark green.
Oh, nice, okay.
Only what you could see, right?
Sure.
Like you didn't paint the back of the...
Well, yeah, you're not painting the joists and all that stuff.
No.
Yeah.
But I painted everything that I could see. And I had the layout room was carpeted, and it had a white, it had, like you did, the colonial trim along the bottom, and that was painted white, but it really made the room pop somehow. It did. Yeah. It really makes the layout just come to life somehow when you do that, because somehow the layout is above the darkness.
Right. Yes.
And so you just don't even see everything else. All you see is the layout, and it seems brighter and cooler. And
I am looking forward to trying
because you've eliminated the light under the layouts. Now you're looking at a dark substrate of the earth with the land on top.
I think you guys are absolutely right, and I'm looking forward to trying that. My buddy Randy's got some skirting that he had dropped off at Bill's house, and now that I'm only going in the office, I'm working from home most of the week, and I'm only going up to Hartford 2 days a week. And so I've been trying to figure out a time to swing by Bill's on my way home from work to pick up the skirting that Randy had dropped off, because now that I've got that one aisle done, I want to tack up the skirting and see if it's going to be what I expect, which is exactly what you guys are talking about, where it really looks like it's going to be floating above the darkness, frankly, and make it really pop. And I think it probably will. Right now, it just looks like this big in-your-face band of darkness right in the middle of the room, cutting the room in half. And I think putting the skirting in is really going to help.
Yeah.
It anchors the whole thing to the floor.
Exactly. Yeah, it does. That's right. All right.
So to answer your question, yes, I'm going Pullman green.
Okay, cool. and no photos on the front.
Yeah, well, okay, so let's talk about that just real quick. Definitely no photos on the fascia, and even more so, that pendulum has kind of started to go to the other extreme. I am starting to really like the idea of as clean a fascia as possible, where before I had a lot of kind of gewgaws for operators and all this stuff. And there's still going to be some stuff that's going to be necessary, like a bill box and a throttle holster and a plug-in panel and a cup hook. But that's it. A cup hook just to hold the clipboard for your paperwork.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I'm considering doing, and I haven't got it yet, but my friend John Grosner was the first one that had this on his layout, and it's weather stripping, and it's got a slot in it.
Yeah.
So you can just stick your way bills and your switch list or whatever.
Yeah, okay.
You just stick it right in there, and it being weather stripping, it can take the curves of the fascia. If you have free flowing.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a free flowing layout, curved corners and all that. So you've got your weather stripping, and it can take the curves, and you can just tuck your paperwork in there. I'm trying to do that too.
Yeah.
So
let's talk about it. You have way more talent. Yeah. Did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, what about things like in your town areas? You're going to put a track plan with the switches on it, so it's easy to know what's going on
I've been. Yeah, short answer is yes. I'm just not sure if I'm going to. Well, yeah, it'll probably be on the fascia. If I do end up having a valance, I might put it up on the valance just to keep the fascia as clean as possible. But to your point. And I think it's absolutely critical for operations, especially if you have folks that either are first timers to your layout or just occasional folks to your layout. To your point, having all the tracks labeled, orienting you, which way's north, which way's south, which way, in my case, which way's to Hartford, which way's to Old Saybrook, what the industries are, what the car capacities are on the sidings, so you can kind of plan your moves ahead. That sort of thing. So yeah, in each town right now, there's a track diagram, but I think to Lionel's point, just removing the photographs is going to be a big improvement on its own. So, and anything I can do beyond that to clean up the fascia is just be a bonus.
So you've agreed with me about removing the photographs. You've agreed with me about dark Pullman green. So what have we learned here?
I should just listen to you and not even bother asking anybody
There
else.
You go.
So Lionel,
I'm a quick study, Lionel.
Yeah. Lionel, do you want to give your opinion on having track diagrams on the fascia?
I did that.
The switch machines located where they actually are.
I had fairly small micro toggle switches, and I had the track diagram for each town. I mean, I felt like, but I painted the bill boxes were painted the dark Pullman green.
Yep.
And actually, I found that like the track plans, and I had a name. I would put a name of each town on there, and make a proper label, and that stuff all makes the layout kind of come to life too. Like if you've got that basic dark color from the top of the layout to the floor, all these little things that are necessary kind of make the layout come to life. I found I enjoyed those little, like I enjoyed making a proper nameplate for each town.
Right.
I thought,
and it made it a lot easier for the operators they could look at the track diagram and know this toggle is this switch, and away you go.
Yeah. However, there were some operators that I think you could have.
Yeah. Some would kind of.
we all have those from time to time.
Yeah,
it's part
of
the it's part of
the enjoyment.
Let's go the enjoyment. Hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
Part of the culture.
But don't sit in my chair.
Yeah, right. We've learned that.
Yeah. I was going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you this question because this absolutely dumbfounds me. And I understand that a lot of people haven't realized it, but you claim to have no artistic talent whatsoever. You claim, which is completely false because your layout is beautiful. For people that have never seen your layout, I mean, your layout is becoming one of the prominent layouts as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I think there's probably in the United States, let's say for argument's sake, there's 1,000 top layouts or 500 top layouts. Well, your layout is easily in that group.
Well, thank you.
Whatever that number is, because I think there's a lot more layouts than we realize out there.
I think that's true.
But you have, how did you learn to take the hardwood, the masonite, and curve it and make it a free-flowing front? Because I see layout after layout where I just want to walk up to the owner and say, no, you don't do the fascia in bits and pieces. You take the masonite and you just take your 8-foot section and run it and let it flow around the corners. And
exactly.
How did you, I don't know how I figured that out, but do you remember, did it just come naturally to you or something?
Absolutely not. Hardly anything comes naturally to me. I read a book.
Yeah, there you go.
No, there's and actually this is kind of a running joke between Bill and I, because I helped him do his bench work on the layout that he's doing now.
Right, and cut your finger off, and tried to cut your finger off.
Oh my God, yeah, I got that the screw into my thumb. Yeah, that was a bad day. But but pro tip, the doctors use ACC just like you do on your hobby bench to mend skin.
Pro tip.
I could have saved myself a trip to the doctor by just going to the hobby bench.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
But no, it's kind of a running joke, because there's what I call a coefficient of sag, and what that comes from is there. And I don't know if they have it in the latest edition, but you guys will remember the Model Railroader, the Kalmbach book on basic bench work, or how to build model railroad bench work, or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's a chart in there, or at least there was in the edition that I had, that gave you kind of the thumbnail sketch of what the capacities were for each dimension. So, for example, if you had an 8-foot run, how often would you need of a joist? How often would you need to support it? Well, it would depend on if it was a 1x3 or 1x4. A 1x4 could go this far between legs. A 1x3 could go this far between legs. You could have an overhang of a 1x4 off the end by this many inches before you'd have to worry about sagging. A 1x3 would be a little bit different, and so it's this nice little chart that I made a photocopy of and actually laminated and would keep in my shirt pocket whenever I would build bench work. And so whenever I took it over to Bill's house, I would he was like, "Oh, we've got to we've got to do this." And I'm like, "Okay, well, what's the run?" And he would tell me. He's like, and I would pull out this little chart, and he's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I'm trying to figure out the coefficient of sag." And so it's become kind of a running joke, because it depends on whether or not there's a flange. So is this just a 1x4? Or a 1x4 with a 1x2 flange, so now it's an L girder, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
What the hell does any of that have to do with the fascia?
Because when you're doing a layout, you're going to figure out your track plan first, and then, actually, if you're smart, you figure out your aisles first. But most of us will figure out our track plan first, and then there's, in my view, two ways of going about it. One way is to just build box girder. Straight runs, underneath where your track needs to go. But that ends up with a lot of wasted space in the corners, especially because, when you're at the end of a peninsula, the track doesn't go at right angles. It goes at a curve, on a turn back curve, to get back down the other side on the other aisle. So to, round those corners, the easiest thing to do is, especially with L girder bench work, is to just have your joists, the ends of your joists, follow the curve that you want it to follow. And then the ends of those joists, you just tack a, in my case, it was a 1x1 to provide a little bit more of a screwing area instead of just screwing the fascia right into the ends of the joists. There'd be maybe a 6 or 8 inch long 1x1 that's screwed to the end of the joist that then the fascia is screwed to, and it follows the curve.
And it follows the curve.
and then there's a miracle, and then it just all works.
Anyways, it makes the layout so much better if the fascia is just this curve. The front of the layout is just this free-flowing curve. And I don't understand why more people don't do that, because to me, that makes a model railroad become almost museum quality.
Yes.
It just changes the entire, because you don't have those herky-jerky joints and corners, and it's like it has to be curved and free-flowing.
I think biggers is people don't know how to do it. They know they can put an angle up there, and it'd be fine, but they don't know how, or afraid to.
Yeah.
Whip out an 8-foot piece of masonite and maybe curve the back or wet it if they have to get around a tight corner. They just don't know how to do it, so they take the easy way out and know what they can handle.
Yeah. And ironically, in my view, it's actually so much easier to do it this way than to do it with the box girders. And the key is the L girder bench work, because when you've got the joists that go on top of the L girders instead of the joists having to go inside of the sides like you do with box girder, the joist can be any length you want. I mean, subject to the coefficient of sag. You don't want to have too much overhang off the ends of the L girders. But for somebody with very limited carpentry skills, I mean, L girder benchwork is the bomb. I mean, it is so easy to build. The only downside is that it tends to make the cross section of the layout much deeper, right? Because instead of the joists being inside the side rails, they're basically on top of the side rails, and the side rails and L girder benchwork are your L girders, right? So those are what support the joist. But since they're on top of the L girders, they can be any length that you need them to be, and then you can have it flow. And what you and Bruce are both saying is absolutely key. What makes the flowing fascia look so much better in my mind is because it's a much more natural look that echoes what the scenery is doing. The scenery is going to have
much more natural look.
Yeah, the scenery is going to have hills and dales and cuts and fills, and there's not going to be any straight lines in nature. So you have a fascia and you have an edge of your benchwork that echoes that same free flowing natural look. And it all just blends and makes it look so much better. I mean, I feel for the folks that are doing shelf layouts or double deck layouts where you can't really, at least on the upper decks, you can't really do the L girder benchwork because you're really looking for as thin a cross section as possible there. But even with box girder benchwork, you can do. It takes a little bit more effort, but you can still do the curved fascia. It's just you need more spacers, and it's more contrived. You need to do a little bit more effort to get to that. Whereas with L girder benchwork, it just happens almost naturally.
Yeah. I think I used I girder. I think I put a 1x4. I would take a 1x4 and rather than make it an L, I would just plop because really I would look at it. I'd have these, I'd get a 12-foot 1x4. I would make the same kind of leg braces or supports as you did. I would make these L braces with a 45-degree support in it. I mean, to me, that's part of the thing too. There was no legs on the front of my layout, and then I would just lay. At first, I would lay. You could take a piece of 1x4 and put it on its edge, and just do that. And then whenever I got to one of those, I would just put in another piece of. I basically made an I girder because there's nothing stronger than. That's what gives you your strength. I mean,
and
you can build. And then I did what you did. I always had my front of my layout was always kind of like yours. Like it had some depth to it, and I just like that look. And then you just, like you said, you just put some supports there that could be they don't really need to be much other than like I think I would put 1x4s when I did my supports for the fascia, but it was the same basic idea.
Yeah, my layout didn't end up needing to be near, as deep as what you see. And part of the reason why it's deep is because my the risers, which are, the portion of the benchwork that goes from the joist up to the sub road bed that holds your track. The risers on this railroad are much taller than they should have been or needed to be. And I'm not, I'm not quite sure why I did it that way. That's kind of lost to history now. I don't know if I expected there was going to be much more like dramatic undulation, below the track and that sort of thing, which is why you would need taller risers, because you want to have your joists, the top of your joist be at even with whatever your lowest scenic feature is going to be, whether it's going to be a gorge or a river or whatever, so you don't have to cut down into them. That's always going to be your base level. And so if you're in the mountains, like your layout was, I mean, it's no surprise that you would have a taller fascia because you'd need to be covering up the L girder support, then the joist, and then the risers above that to your track. With mine, it turns out that Old Saybrook to Wethersfield is fairly flat, so I could have gotten by with probably, half the depth.
It looks way better. It looks much better with like that.
The thicker section, it gives it more balance rather than just here's a little thin strip of fascia hanging there.
Okay.
Thicker. And this is just. Thinking, if you got, your fascia 12 inches or whatever it is, and then you've got below treated so it's dark, so the whole thing is one mass,
right,
rooted in the floor. Then everything above that looks natural.
Yeah, I'm really excited to try the skirting because I think my whole view of that aisle is going to change.
Yeah, that's for sure. It will change dramatically. All right, let's move on to this SW1 project.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Chris Adams' prototype modeler goes off the rails.
Well, so you bought a Penzi switcher.
I did not. A fellow AMLer, and I will give credit where due, fellow AML Nation member Philip Taylor donated that to the cause. So thank you again, Philip. Yes.
Way to go, Philip.
Yeah, thank you again. I'll be able to thank him now in front of everybody. I've thanked him on the blog before, but yeah, this is kind of a fun project. If you got a couple minutes, I'll tell you about it. But
I don't know, Lionel. Do we need to check the countdown clock on the wall here?
Let's just see. We'll check with the network.
The net group's giving us the thumbs up. The guy in the other room there, he's giving us the thumbs up.
Okay, so the producer's okay with it.
Yeah. So we're happy with the curved fascia. Then that's what.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Happy with the idea of either curtains or skirting and painting down and no pictures.
So how did you manage to get Phil to give you a locomotive?
I didn't manage anything. I put it out there that I was looking for one. Lou Papineau came through with finding one that was available, but then Phil Taylor said, "Oh, I've got one on hand that I'm not using, and I'll send it your way." And I was like, "Oh, you want anything?" No. I just want to see you make out with this project. And I was like, "Thank you, fantastic." That's so. Yeah, it's kind of funny because the New Haven didn't have any AMD switchers until 1956. Didn't have any AMD locomotives at all until 1956. And it was an all Alco diesel railroad until I think I should know this offhand. Sorry, inertia guys. But they got Fairbanks Morse and Lima Hamilton builder diesels in 1950, I think. But before that, it was all Alcos, DL109s, S1s, S2s, high hoods, all Alcos. And in my era, it's all Alcos, 1948. But I've always kind of in the back of my mind had, an affinity for an end cab switcher. And thank you, Lionel. Lionel, sorry.
Yeah.
The
You're welcome.
SW1200.
You're welcome, Christopher.
Yeah, thanks. The SW1200 that I reviewed for Tony Cook, that you turned him on, to send that my way, really started this ball rolling, because that was a New Haven in-cab AMD switcher, and it's just the bomb. And I love that locomotive. But I've always had a thing for the SW1, and it goes back to, and I apologize to anybody that's actually read this story on the blog. I'll be repeating it. But the first layout planning book that I ever had was the Atlas Atlas plan book. It was a little 5x7 little booklet.
The Snaptrack book.
The Snaptrack layout book had the Super Pretzel in it. Had the and that was my first layout, actually. My dad and I built the Super Pretzel, which was beautiful. A 4x8 with a 4x4 on the side. Did the Mountains and Minutes foam, expanded foam that went all over the track and had to excavate the track. But one of my favorite layouts in there was actually one of the simplest layouts, and it was called the Wayfreight Special. Yes. And all it was a 4x6 layout that had a loop of track and two trailing point switch. Well, they were trailing point if you went clockwise. And you guys, if you remember the old Atlas plan books, they would have, in order to show you kind of the scale of what you could fit on the layout, they would have a silhouette of a train, somewhere near the plan, so you could see kind of, well, how many, how long of a train goes on this layout. And the Wayfreight Special had a silhouette of an SW1 switcher. I didn't know it was an SW1 at the time, but it had a silhouette of an SW1 switcher, 4 or 5 assorted freight cars, and a little bobber caboose. And I just thought that was the greatest thing. And I mean, that was in January of 1983. I just turned 14. And even to this day, the reason my layout has 4 local freights interchanging with one another and the mainline trains are just kind of bit players off to the side is because I've always had an affinity for, local switching, these little way freights, this retail railroading that is just these, little weedy branch lines and that sort of character. And so I've always kind of loved, the SW1, but the New Haven didn't have one. So being a strict prototype modeler, I very disciplined, never bothered with an SW1. And it was just as well because, nobody really made a good one. Walters had one back in the early 90s that was awful. And so I just kind of put it out of my mind. Well, last fall, my buddy Pete and I were on our way up to Oktoberfest, which is an operations thing around Albany, New York. And on the way up, we stopped by the Railroad Museum of New England in Thomaston, Connecticut. And one of the engines that they have on display there is an SW1. It's a Boston and Maine SW1 number 1109. And I vaguely recall that locomotive being in Essex because when that museum was at the Essex steam train right up the road from my house here, they had that locomotive on display. But I never really paid much attention to it. I knew it was there. But for whatever reason, the bug really bit. And I took so many pictures of that locomotive that day. And I Pete will tell you, my mission that weekend, that operations weekend, was to see if I could find a newer run, Walther's SW1. They came out with a newer run in the early 2000s, I think, maybe 2013. That was DCC ready and the whole deal. And so I was on this mission. I couldn't, I found an undeck up in Adams, Massachusetts on our way back. We hit a hobby shop before we went to Dick Elwell's house. And they had, one of the original run ones there. And I was just like, it's not really what I want. So it went on the back burner again, but it came to the fore again, this spring. And, I kind of put it out there that I was looking for one. And, Philip Taylor, came through with this Pensy one. And, basically he didn't say it in these terms, but, what I kind of inferred from his giving it to me is like, okay, shut up and do the project. So I got this SW1, and the coolest thing about it is that I'm going to be doing the B&M 1109, and the portion of my layout that is that operates as the airline branch on the prototype, but is itself freelanced. The towns of Mill Hollow and Somerset. I'm going to let the locomotive be the power on that section, so it doesn't, offend my prototype sensibilities too much. But it'll be lease power from the B&M, which the New Haven did do. They never leased an SW1, but they did lease B&M power from time to time, and B&M leased from New Haven back in the 40s and 50s. So I'm not stretching plausibility too much. But here's the coolest thing: is that the B&M 1109, which is the locomotive that they've got over at the museum, I can plausibly say that is the only SW1 that ever turned a wheel on the Valley Line.
There you go.
On the prototype, because as a matter of fact, it went past my house whenever it was hauled from Essex to Thomaston, and I had no idea because I wasn't, I was kind of into bike racing at the time, not really doing railroad stuff. And but the 1109 was on the Valley Line. I mean, yeah, not until the 80s and 90s.
Right, I get it.
But still,
yeah.
So yeah, I've now stripped it.
Wallace, can we get to, can you wait till I ask questions?
Yeah, can I take a breath?
Take a pause. We'll be back after the brief commercial message from our sponsors.
Sorry, guys.
They finally blew the whistle. The play went on for like 7 minutes.
Sorry.
7 minutes nonstop. Three line changes. And
they're still going. Actually, Bruce, last winter, Peter and I were 3 minutes late for a game. Well, like that, we got to our part where you go in for the seats, and and the game had been going for like 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and we had our pizza and everything, and the play went on for another 13 minutes. So
before you could get to your seats,
before we could get to our seats, there was and of course the crowd outside was just huge. And so by the time we were able to get to our seats, there was like 4 minutes left in the period.
Wow.
Did you ever try
And all the poor schmoes standing in the hall didn't see any of
it. Yeah, exactly. We were watching it on a TV.
No, there you go.
Did you ever try the junior pretzel?
No. Just
there are
pretzel.
so many great plans in that book. I've got a copy somewhere within 10 feet of me. I can't find it right now. I'll be pulling it out and looking at it.
I regretfully got rid of my copy with an ill-advised clean out of books back, maybe 15, 20 years ago. I figured, I'm not going to ever, and I'm kicking myself. I would love to have that back. And I've looked on eBay and stuff, and they've got, and they're available on eBay. I could pick one up tomorrow, but I want to get the, I think there was a 1982 printing. Right. And that's the one I'm looking for, because that's got to be the one that I actually had, because we got the train set. My brother got the train set in Christmas of '82, and I got my first copy of Model Railroader in January of '83. So I would have gotten the plan book right around the same time. So
yeah,
and it's the one that's got the crane on the front. I mean,
it's a great book. And now here's a little. We talked about this when we talked about John Armstrong. But John Armstrong did all those track plans for Athearn.
Yeah,
Atlas,
and
Atlas,
great.
Athearn or Atlas?
Not Athearn, Atlas. Sorry, Atlas Snaptrack.
So this is what's the name of the
for HO Snaptracks?
Let's reiterate what's the name of this book.
It's Blueprints for HO Snaptrack.
Okay, cool. Can I ask a question now? Can I talk now?
Sure.
So it's your podcast.
Are you sure about that? So it's an SW1. It's the B&M. What's the number? 1109 or something?
Yep.
Okay. Wow, I actually remembered that. So the part I want to get to. Well, look at here. There's something else here too. So this dropped in. Oh, thanks, Ray Arnott, for what happened with Ray Arnott. Oh, did you do an episode with Ray Arnott?
I did.
Oh, cool.
Lucky number 7. He got me on the podcast. I think it broadcast on July 5th.
Did you mention Modeler's Life?
Oh, I'm sure I did.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. I haven't listened to that yet. Of course, I didn't know there were other podcasts. So, in my defense,
why would you?
Yeah, exactly. So I want to get to this part where you put it in the brake fluid.
Oh, Bruce is holding up the blueprints. Yeah, that's the classic, Bruce. 50 cents, buddy. And all the John Armstrong layouts you can handle. Very cool.
Absolutely.
So I want to get to, there's other posts that we should be talking about. I shouldn't have talked about that yet, but then we'd never get to this point. It scared the bejeepers. I think I did that once. So there's a picture here on July 23rd. Just dunked the SW1 hood and cab while listening to today's NMRX clinics. So the picture reminds me of a pig in formaldehyde.
Doesn't it?
No,
doesn't it? Though?
Flashback to high school biology.
Or a frog, yeah,
a frog,
baby.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't remember that in high school. The pig in formaldehyde. Can't honestly say
said frog.
Yeah. So I think I did that once a long time ago, and I thought it was just a rousing failure. But you seem to have managed to pull it off.
It's listen, and I know you've given me the gears about this in the past, but I have a lot of beginner's luck, and I'll just admit it. And part of it is also because I do solicit a lot of feedback and a lot of input before I do anything.
Yeah.
So that helps out a lot. And the consensus around stripping this shell was 91% alcohol. And some people are saying brake fluid, and some people, there's a scale coat stripper out there, which, when am I going to get around to getting scale coat stripper? Brake fluid, I've got some brake fluid, but I've read some bad things about brake fluid. But I had some 91% alcohol in hand, and I figured, it's a free locomotive. What the heck am I throwing in a vat of alcohol? But no, this is, and I think I may have posted about it later, but boy, it could not have possibly turned out better than, it exceeded my expectations. I mean, I didn't have any idea that the paint would come off that easily. I'd heard and read so many horror stories. I'd gotten some feedback from some folks that had some bad experiences with stripping earlier in the week, during the AML chat. Actually, I figured, okay, well, the paint, and I think you and maybe Dave Aberles or somebody, Lionel, on a podcast at one point was talking about, how thin the paint is anymore on these shells, that you can just paint right over, without having to strip anymore, because it's not going to hide any detail, and you can just paint right over what's there.
I find that hard to believe, but that's seems to be becoming the consensus.
Yeah, and
it's almost, the paint now is almost like a primer coat. If you want to get rid of the lettering, you're after the races.
And that's exactly right. I mean, that's what I was trying to do on Wednesday, was just get rid of the numbers and the herald and stuff like that. And so there was this Ralphie boy suggested using some Solvaset on a piece of paper towel and let it soak on the number, and that worked okay. It needed a lot of work with a toothpick and some scraping. Maybe I didn't let it sit there long enough, but it seemed like a lot of effort. And it's a fairly simple paint scheme on the Pennsylvania shell, but there's still a lot of numbers and a lot of little things to take off, and this was taking forever. And so I thought, well, I don't want to do that, and I kind of would like to get the paint down. I'd like to get an undeck. I would like to get it down to the bare plastic. So I kind of threw it out to the folks on the Facebook group, and came back with 91% alcohol. I had it on hand, stuck it in a jar, put the shell in the jar, and literally under 10 minutes you could start seeing the numbers dissolve. And then within another 2 or 3 minutes, I went at it with a toothbrush, and it's just like wet paint. It was nothing. I mean, it was literally just washing off, and it was working so good. I was afraid that I was going to end up melting the plastic. So I, out of an abundance of caution, I made up a bowl of soapy water, and figured, okay, well, I have no idea if this has got any real basis in any chemical reality, but it looks good to me that maybe I'll do a stop bath and take the parts out and throw them into this vat of soapy water and stop whatever chemical reaction may take place that'll melt my plastic. And like, I don't even know if that was necessary. It made me feel better, but
which is important.
Yeah, it did. But it worked out great. The alcohol took the paint right off, all the way down to the bare gray plastic. The numbering came off, the letters, the heralds. Some folks had said that sometimes the numbers and the lettering are a lot more stubborn, and you need to go at them a bit more aggressively. Wasn't the case on this particular model. I mean, your mileage may vary on different models, different manufacturers. I've heard that Kato is, the paint that they use is pretty obstinate, doesn't come off nearly as easy. But boy, this Walther's mainline SW1, it could not have been any easier. I mean, it was down to bare gray plastic inside of 20 minutes tops.
Yeah, looking at your after picture, like it's like you get started with an undeck unit. It's
exactly.
It's perfectly clean. It's amazing how well that worked.
All the nooks and crannies, the panel lines. I mean, everything. And bonus, it didn't dissolve the adhesives. So you'll see there that the handrails on the back of the cab, the horn, the bell, none of the adhesive there dissolved. Now I've heard that if you leave it in there for a long time, like maybe days or weeks, that might happen. It might break down the adhesive. But all those joints are still very, very strong. So strong, in fact, because I didn't want that bell. Ended up still having to carve it off. It wouldn't even pop off. So it, but yeah, it cleaned up really, really nice.
Yeah, the bell is black, still black. What was it? A black plastic or something?
Yeah, it was black molded plastic. So was the horn.
Oh, okay.
It was like a Delrin or something, a little bit of flexible stuff, or
yeah, it seemed to be. Yeah.
Huh. And you didn't want that on there?
No, the bell is wrong for B&M.
Okay.
So. Yeah, a guy, David Hutchinson, who's been a super help. I think he actually runs the B&M and Main Central Painting and Lettering group, which of course I join.
Of course you do.
That's what I do.
Oh,
So, looking, because now I want to go down this rabbit hole. How do I do a B&M, switcher? And it's, because that's a part of the hobby that I just love is the obsessing and the OCD and the new research and. It's a new shiny new object, right? So it's something new to research and learn about, and it's all brand new. I mean, on the Valley line, I love it, but it's getting harder and harder to find discoveries, and that sense of discovery is quite a rush. And so, it's no wonder that a lot of people switch prototypes a lot. I was even tempted to switch to the Redding over Tomstock, but I resisted the urge and have come back a little bit, But yeah, the bell, I got a new bell from David Hutchinson. He sent me the correct one. And I was just actually last night researching, what horn did the EMD SW1 get delivered with? Because I don't really know anything about horns, and that's a whole other hobby, right?
There's another whole hobby, yeah.
But as near as I can tell, I think it's just a regular Wabco E type. And I've got one of those Details Associates parts on hand. So I'll swap the plastic one out for something that looks a bit better. And and I've got some KV models, stainless steel details. So I'm going to do the door handles and the lift rings. The lift rings, actually, Bruce, on your recommendation, I got actually had on hand the Details Associates ones.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the only downside of those is I want to retain and maybe I shouldn't, but I plan. I plan on retaining the handrail that came with the model, and that's the diameter on that is just a little proud of or a little larger than the holes on the Details Associates parts. But I've already reamed those out, so the handrail will fit. But those are going to look a lot better than what's molded on the shell right now.
Now, can I ask a question? I think I know the answer. You're obviously taking lots of pictures and documenting this project as you go on, because I think this would make a hell of an article for a magazine of maybe we know an editor of or something like that. But this would be an ideal article, I think. Here's what I did, here's how I did it, and boom, boom, there you go.
I appreciate you saying that, and it's you guys are probably going to roll your eyes, but that. It wouldn't have even occurred to me if you hadn't said it, because it's just like, okay, I always feel like I'm so far behind, where everybody else is as far as their level of skill and what they've done. I mean, I'm asking, the internets of, what should I use to strip the paint? I mean, and it's like, okay, why don't I already know this? And so I'm learning it.
Yeah, and that's the perfect thing. I started on this project really not knowing how to proceed. So I, contact through the internet, blah, blah, blah. I tried this, tried that. And, I'm going to tell you what I did so you can, use these techniques on your own model and get started if you're sitting back waiting to do something. To me, it's an ideal sort of beginner's a step to taking an existing model and repainting it, stripping it, repainting, upgrading it. And, it's something that anybody can do, and maybe just enough to give. Oh yeah, I can do that. That's pretty straightforward. Let me give it a try.
Well, that's one of the things that I do try to do on the blog and through the Facebook group to a lesser extent, but mostly on the blog when I'm documenting this stuff. And you're absolutely right. It's one of those things where it's like I'm so enthusiastic about sharing what I've learned, because I figure if I can, and a lot of people say this, but it's absolutely true. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And this is how I did it, and you can do it too. And so I guess it's just because I feel like I wasted so many years, and I still, Lionel teases me about it. I still to this day, will overthink stuff and take too long to get started on something because I'm obsessing about it, and I'm getting better. But for years, I would just not try at all. And it's so much, it's so much easier than what you fear. It's so much easier to do than what you imagine. And I find that, and the more I find that to be true, the easier it is to start something new. The easier it is to start that project that I've been putting off. The easier it is to pick up the airbrush and learn how to use it, pick up the soldering iron, because you've built kind of a record in your mind of, okay, well, I tried this thing. I really feared it. It turned out okay. Hey, that builds confidence. And I want so much to share that with other people, because I know you guys tease me about it, but the struggle is real. I mean, it's like, and I know I'm not alone in it. I know I'm not alone.
But no, you're not alone. And that's exactly why I'm looking at what you got here and on your blog about this. And to me, this is a perfect article for the magazine. I started this really not knowing. I was, had some trepidation, blah, 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 but I went through. Here's what I learned. I'm showing you how to do it. You can go ahead and do this. If I can do it, you can do it. And, go through it. To me, it's an ideal article.
But that's kind of the magic of the hobby, Chris.
Oh, yeah.
You're not Chris. You're Bruce.
No. Sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm agreeing with you.
Oh, okay. That's kind of the magic of the hobby. It's the same with this podcast. I knew nothing about how to do a podcast. I knew how to talk, but other than that, I knew nothing about how to do a podcast. And that's the magic of the hobby is you learn how to build bench work, and now all of a sudden you can do basic carpentry. And you learn how to solder, and now all of a sudden you can do basic, electronics, and and that's the magic. I think most people are the same. They obsess on getting started on something, and the only difference between your personality and my personality is I don't really care if it doesn't turn out, because I'll just do it again. And
right.
It's like, I don't care that I missed that turn and I slid in the ditch. I'll just I'll try again, and I'll break sooner or something.
Yeah.
But I think what Bruce is trying to say is that, it's people. That's what I think. This is a good discussion to have. I think that's what people don't realize is that. How old are you now, Chris?
53.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Have you been to a doctor?
Seen it?
I know. Yeah, actually, I knew that was coming. Yes, I have.
Oh, okay. But I think that's part of the aging process is, when you're 20, in your 20s, you don't really know nothing. And then in your 30s, you learn a little bit more. And your 40s, you learn a bit more. And by the time you're in your 50s, it's like, yeah, bring it on. Let's try it. It's a whole different ball game. So where do you get 91% alcohol paint stripper? Well, no, I'm asking because believe it or not, people are listening to this.
Okay.
I know that you I know that you're on all these other podcasts, but believe it or not, people are listening to this one.
I can tell you because I actually picked up another bottle today. I went down to my local Walmart. I picked up 91% alcohol off the shelf and brought it home.
What is it? Is it in the hardware part?
No, it's actually, it was across the aisle from the contact lens solution. Do not mix the two up.
Do not do no. I'd be bad.
So what would it be? What's it used for then?
Just sanitizing. I mean, like if
Sanitize,
if you're, 70% alcohol, 91% alcohol. I was just saying, you go to a doctor, get a shot. Yeah, you go to a doctor, get a shot. That's what they swab your arm with before they poke you.
Oh, okay. Yep. It's 91%.
So you get at a drugstore. You should be able to pick it up. A lot of hardware stores will have it. Hardware store, Walmart, we certainly had it.
Well,
during the pandemic, it was hard to come by.
Hard to come by, yeah,
because people were drinking it.
You'd think probably.
Yeah.
So you just go to your local Walmart, or it wouldn't be in a hardware store.
Hardware store would have it.
Yeah, I've seen it in hardware stores.
In cleaning aisle, they'd have it, or pharmacy.
Like that's
pharmacy, like your CVS or whatever drugstore.
Yeah. Part of this discussion is like even something as simple as like I don't remember the last time. I'm sure I've bought it before. But I don't remember the last time I did it. And it's kind of like even that discussion. It's like, okay, so you guys are telling me all I got to do is go into Walmart or Home Depot or the drugstore, and it'll say right on the bottle, 91% alcohol. Everything is a mystery to everybody. But then, that's the beauty. Again, of course, we all agree that that's the beauty of social media. And that's one of the reasons you're getting things done now is because you have people to obsess with, and they give you a bunch of ideas, and off you go.
Exactly. And, if I was a lone wolf modeler and, you look back 20, 30 years ago, right before the internet, and you had your magazines and you could do that. And maybe you have somebody down at the hobby shop that, was a mentor, somebody that you could talk to and, that was a little bit ahead of you on the way and could, teach you some of the stuff that they learned. But, with the internet and I hate, we all have a love-hate relationship with Facebook, but I got to tell you, the reason why I keep that group going is because the feedback that I get, the instant feedback and guidance and input is phenomenal. I'll throw something out and, I'll get, a bunch of comments back, and I can't imagine that, anything equivalent to that 10, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, going down to the hobby shop and, hoping there was some guys hanging out down there that you could ask, going through back issues of Model Railroader, looking for the working on the railroad column in Model Railroader in the late 90s and seeing what that crazy guy did. And now it's almost embarrassing how easy it is to find information. Now, the flip side of that is there can be a high noise to signal ratio with this stuff too, right? So you gotta be careful.
There are some self-professed know-it-alls out there who really don't.
Yeah, and so and I'm not one to go a lot through videos and stuff because I'm a quick reader and I would like to just find stuff quickly and just skim read it and see if it's what I need instead of having to wade through a long video or whatnot. But I'll admit to being a bit lazy, just throwing something out on this Facebook group, and the quality of the comments that I get back has been really, really super cool. And it's very, very helpful. And to your point, Lionel, I mean, getting that sort of instant feedback and guidance has really supercharged the progress, because I can go through that whole obsessing process so much more quickly now. So, I can get beyond it and get moving forward. And the trepidation isn't as intense anymore, because I know there's going to be, 3, 4, 8, 12, 15 guys or gals that are going to, tell me what their experience has been. And, and that's one of the cool things. I mean, and one of my pet peeves is somebody that gives advice, and it's advice based on something that they read, but they've never actually done it themselves. That's that can be a little irritating sometimes. I mean, I still appreciate the information, but the best quality information is somebody that says, look, this is what I did, this is what I tried, and it worked out or it didn't work out. Because even a negative finding is a finding, right? Don't do it this way. It's just as helpful as do it this way. And so the feedback that I've been getting on this has just really been a big help. And yeah, it's funny. I mean, Ralph Renzetti and I have kind of this ongoing thing about craft paint.
Oh yeah, and I was getting that.
Oh, okay. I don't want to steal anybody's thunder here, but he's given me some really intense and excellent information and a lot of good stuff to think about with this stuff. I mean, it's still not anything that I've totally bought into, because the thing about the craft paints, at least from my perspective, and I don't want to be giving out bad information, this has just been my own experience so far, as limited as it is, and all those caveats. But the paints, it's not about the money. It's not about the fact that they are very inexpensive, and they are. It's about the availability. I can go right to Walmart and get them right away off the shelf. They last, I don't want to say forever, but they last a heck of a lot longer than my flow quills ever did.
Yeah.
And they're clean up with water, so they're easy to use. And because they're inexpensive, I can stockpile a whole slew of colors.
Yeah.
And have them on hand and ready to go. I mean, I painted this red strip on my on this gas station model that I'm doing.
Yeah, I got that. Chris.
Yes,
craft paint is not meant for airbrushing, no matter how you look at it or try to explain it. The pigment in craft paint is not ground to the same fineness as Tamiya or Vallejo. Plus, there is less pigment. Then on top of that, you didn't even buy the best craft paint. What did you pay? About $1? So here you are building a killer layout, and you're cheapening your out on paint. Do the thinners and flow improvers that you use have UV filters in them? What is wrong with you, Chris? Like, geez, you completely...
What the hell were you thinking,
man?
I was wondering that.
But anyhow, it looks good. That's my thing.
Yeah, well, and
I think you ran it through. You said you ran it through a filter, though, didn't you?
Oh yeah. So I've got. I don't know if I posted a picture of it or not, but yeah.
Yeah, we got a picture of the stripe. It looks nice.
Yeah,
and a picture of the apple barrel red. Color.
It lays really nice. I mean, I'll admit I have never heard of, and maybe I should have, but I've never heard of UV fade on craft paint before. I mean, I didn't know that was a thing.
I've never heard of UV fade on paint.
I mean, I've heard of UV fade on scenery, and I was already considering getting the UV sleeves for my fluorescent tubes, and now that has gone to the top of my to buy list, because now apparently my red stripe's going to fade at some point.
Yeah,
there you go. And now you're thinking you got that. Why don't you just go right to LED tubes and then avoid the whole problem?
There you go.
Yeah. Well, each fluorescent tube that dies, I'm replacing them with LEDs. It hasn't happened yet, but that's on my list. But
there you go.
But yeah, the craft paint. I mean, I use the it's just regular craft paint, and then there was an article also in RMC. Thank you, Otto, about airbrushing craft paints, and they recommend there's an airbrush medium and a flow aid. Yep. And you add those to the craft paint, and then there's and you get anybody that's used Badger. Actually, I think other airbrush companies have them too.
$4 for the flow improver, $6 for the acrylic thinner, for a grand total of $10 plus tax. Now think about this. It's $2.49 for Tamiya paint, less than $4 for IPA. Already on hand.
Yes, all true.
Jeez, you got somebody all riled up there.
Yeah.
And let me throw this out for those who are talking about craft paints and painting with acrylics and things like that. If you get onto the Model Railroad Hobbyist website and create an account, which costs you nothing, you get access to all sorts of great stuff. But they have a guide to painting with acrylics that's also got updates on there. It is a fantastic thing that
it is.
He's I'm gapping on his name. Help
Joe
me.
Fugate has done yeoman's work on that.
And plus he's got formulas in there for making your own thinner and things like that. And he's updated that because some stuff's not available now. And
I think
that is worth the admission right there, just to get on the Model Railroad Hobbyist website. Sign
Absolutely.
In and get that paint guide.
But I will say that the paints that he uses are the quality paints that Ralph is talking about.
That's
they're
true.
The Vallejo, they're the Badger, they're the what was the other one? I forget. Tamiya.
Tamiya Ammo by Meg and
Meg Ammo. Yep, that's another really good one.
So what are you saying? You have to be like you have to sign up. Is that what you're saying?
For Model Railroad Hobbyists? Yeah. They sign in to create an account. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything, and then you can go to the download it's about a 40-page thing when you get it.
It's and then PDF, color PDF.
There's some links there where he's upgraded it or updated it in the form. Somebody's come up with new colors or he's changed things, that type of stuff. So it's kind of there, and then it's like a working document that gets updated and commented on a fairly regular basis.
And the book itself, the PDF, like Bruce said, it's a free download once you sign up for the site. And it has color swatches in there, the formulas for how to get the different colors, the color equivalents to all the old polyester and Flowquill colors.
Yep.
And in addition to all of that, which I found super helpful, was a whole lot of content on techniques, brushing versus airbrushing, different formulas for thinners that you can use, that you can make for using with these paints.
All right, time out. So how do I know that I have an account and I have it here on my phone. I see what my account is. How do I sign in? On mrhmag.com.
Upper right-hand corner, I think, right? Let's see, I'm getting on there myself.
Authors, events. I don't know. And then where is this paint thing that you guys are mumbling about?
Search acrylic paint guide. Acrylic. You get signed in.
Acrylic. How do you spell acrylic? Don't anybody tell me.
We're gonna let you figure it out.
Yeah.
Paint.
That's why.
See if I spelled it right. Oh, here you go. Yeah, you just MRH acrylic painting guide. Let's see. There's a cheat sheet PDF. That's just in
there's where I got to log. Here's where it says I got to log in. Okay, so I'm going to log in. We got to do this because there's a lot of people listening, and they're going to be disappointed because they can't figure out how to do this. Because the way you guys are talking about this, a lot of people are going to be excited, like, "Oh man, that sounds cool. I want to use it." And then we're just going to blow right past it. And we try to be as transparent here as we can at the old AML network. Accuracy is really of no concern.
Not so much.
Yeah, it's really of no concern of ours, but. Oh, I put in the wrong password. The password.
Yeah, I literally just did that myself. It didn't let me in, so
maybe I forgot my password.
Let's see. My password is C or no.
Or maybe Joe's kicked me out. That could be. That could be it. I can't.
Okay, there I am.
Mine's still. I gotta reset mine. Mine's pretty old, so I'll reverse. So then, okay, So then you go in, and then somehow you find this acrylic paint guide.
So I'm going to do this live because there's nothing more exciting on a podcast than going through a website.
That's the most interesting. But it gives you a chance to stop talking for a minute.
Catch my breath. Sorry about that. I drank a little too much coffee today, I think. Let's see. Sorry about that.
You drink a little too much coffee every day.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Let's see. Acrylic painting guide. Boink.
Can you find it, Bruce? Does it say?
I'm having difficulty. Right now, my computer says I have no internet access, which is wrong because I talked to. So I'm trying it on my phone right now.
Okay, I'm gonna.
And when you put it in the search, you're getting you're getting kicked to the MRH forum.
Yeah.
That isn't giving you the link to the painting guide itself. So I'm trying to see if I can find the.
Well, somebody will find how to do the painting guide, and we'll write into the podcast. But anyways, on Model Railroad Hobbyist, mrhmag.com, there is a excellent painting guide. So we highly recommend that you go look for it.
Absolutely.
I'm exhausted. See, we didn't even hardly touch on. I knew you should be like now that we've got your microphone working good.
And I'm not breathing as much.
Yeah. Well, I think you're still breathing. It's all about getting the microphone just in the. So again, what I've told you before.
Away from the nostrils.
Yeah. Well, it's only for the good-looking guys. That's apparently.
There you go.
Okay. You did a search. You could go to the MRH forum.
Okay.
And it was the same one I got. Is some guys is their digital edition of this book, and further down PDF version, there's a link there, which is mrhmag.com/subscribers /painting/acrylics.
Exactly. And I should have seen that because that was literally the second post. So yeah, if you put in, I put in acrylic paint guide in the search bar in the upper right-hand corner of the homepage after I signed in.
Okay.
And then you click on the first result that pops up that says MRH acrylic painting guide. You click on that, and like Bruce was saying, you scroll down. It's literally the second post. Somebody asked the question, and Joe Fugate gave the answer with the link.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, is this gas station you're working on where you put the red stripe? Is that City Classics kit?
It is absolutely, and yes, our friend Jim Sacco, tribute to him.
I miss Jim.
It's going to be his. I'm going to put his name on the gas station. I'm going to try
for him.
Anyway.
Good for you. I miss Jim. Jim was a good guy.
I do too, very much so.
All right. Well, I think we're out of network time, and then we. What? I knew you'd be interested to talk. I didn't know you were doing a tour across country and hitting every talk show on the circuit.
It's like when you get the new book out, you got to hit all the things, right?
Oh yeah, right. I was on the book tour.
Yeah. So what did you and Ray talk about? This is great that you have this Facebook page. Whatever made you do that?
You may have suggested that too.
Exactly. After I beat Tom.
Oh my gosh! I was like, I don't want to endure that sort of abuse.
So then I talked you into it because it's and who was I talking to? Somebody that I was gonna interview, or somebody that we did interview, and they had like no Facebook page. And I think every layout should have a Facebook page.
Absolutely. I mean, if anybody out there is on the fence as to whether to do it, and listen, I get it. I hate Facebook too. I only use Facebook to post things on this group because of the feedback. But that's the key. If you have a Facebook group, even if you only do a little bit on it, you're going to get some great feedback. People are going to follow you. They're interested in what you're doing. And one of the greatest things about this hobby, and I know you guys have said it a million times as well, is the people in this hobby are so helpful and want so much to share what they've learned and give you help and guidance and some advice. It's really, I mean, it's worth the price of Facebook to have access to that. And I can't recommend it highly enough. I mean, it's been just fantastic for me to get everybody's guidance, and it helps you over humps. I mean, you got a question, you're kind of on the fence about what to color your fascia. You'll get more feedback than maybe you want. You know, you might not be any further along on a decision, but then you can talk to another friend who tells you what to do, and then you can just do that.
There you go.
So, but yeah, get a Facebook group. Don't worry about the rest of Facebook. Just get your own railroad group, and then tell us about it so we can follow you.
There you go. And then we'll follow you. And then when we interview you on the podcast, we'll be able to ask you questions and blah, 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 blah. Facebook is how you use it. I mean, there's lots of bad things. You know, it's no different than driving your car down the street. There's drunk drivers out there. There's people that abuse the right to drive a car. There's people that abuse everything, and you just got to ignore that stuff and use it for what it's the value that it provides. You won't stop driving because somebody's going to get killed today by a drunk driver. You're not going to stop driving.
Exactly.
That's it. We're done. I'm exhausted. Bruce, can you give out our email address?
Yes, please do. This has been an interesting talk with Chris, and we'd love to hear what you think on it. So send us an email to modlerslife@gmail.com. That's modelers with one L, modlerslife@gmail.com.
And if you didn't catch the email address, you can just go to our website, amodelerslife.com, and click on the picture of the moderately agitated mailboy in a particularly agitated state, and boom, the address is already filled in. All you got to do is fill in your subject, and you're putting your text, and that email will whisk its way. It'll go right into the local slot, and it'll go down to the post office. It comes
rattling through a bunch of tubes. It's like the tubes you used to have in the old department stores. You put the,
exactly.
the pneumatic things in. There's a bunch of tubes running around down the mail room, and they come whizzing in and clanking and banging around, and we got more mail.
There you go. I don't know if this is going to be on the free channel or the Patreon channel. So if it's on the free channel, you got to check out our Patreon channel because there's a lot of good stuff on that too. As much fun. Was this a true statement, Chris? As much fun as we had at Tomstock is the kind of fun we have on the Patreon channel.
Absolutely. That's where the antics are.
That's where the antics, as Kaylee Zhang named it, the Antics channel. We should get her a T-shirt that just says the Antics channel.
There you go.
Yes.
That would be a good idea. What else do we got to do? Oh yeah, if you want Chris, have you ever wanted a T-shirt with a hot dog on it?
More than just about anything.
Yeah.
Wow. Are you in luck?
Well, where can I get one of those?
If you go to Midwest Model Railroad and click on their URL, or go to their URL, midwestmodelrr.com, and go across the navigation bar and click on AML. Boom. You are in a wonderland of hats, hoodies, T-shirts, and everything else you could possibly want, and a T-shirt with a hot dog on it. Fantastic. It was kind of cool. There were some people at Tomstock that were wearing T-shirts they'd bought that had Krusty on the back. They were cool T-shirts. Yeah. They were cool T-shirts. I should get myself one of those. Not Krusty, Fred.
Fred.
Oh
Krusty, R.I.P.
Yeah.
Krusty has been put in, I think, the witness protection program.
Yeah, there you go. He's in the witness protection. Got mixed up with the wrong socks.
Yes.
Got mixed up with some tube socks. And I
think it was at Don's laundromats that happened, wasn't it?
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh,
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
At the average Don. Is there anything else we need to mention? Oh, I know what I'm going to tell you guys.
Did you mention Patreon? You're just not sure where it is.
Yeah, well, you can go on our website, modelerslife.com, and click on Patreon, and if you like this podcast and it is on the free channel, trust me, you'll love the Patreon ones. And it's 16 cents a day. For just 365 payments of 16 cents a day, you can have twice as much podcasting fun a week.
And every leap year, you get a free day thrown in.
Yeah, and every leap year. Every 4 years, we throw in a free day.
Good one.
That's what terrifies me every single year when we make the T-shirts for my one more year walk. I'm always afraid, is this a leap year? Am I getting the right number down on those T-shirts? You know what we're going to do next? This is exciting. This is a bit of behind the scenes. This is a bit of behind the scenes. The three of us are going to do an introduction for David Hyde's Kelly questions.
Oh, beautiful.
Because rather than just put the Kelly questions out there, his version of the Kelly questions out there, which appeared on a Patreon channel, speaking of antics, we need to do a what do you call it? What do you call the thing where not the epilogue, the other one?
Prologue?
The prologue.
Sequel?
Yeah, we got to do the prologue. Because at the end of his Kelly questions, instead of it being the standard version of City of New Orleans, it's the version where him and 5 or 6 members of the Dallas Symphony Orchestra did one. And I want us to do a little intro so people know what's coming at the end.
Yeah, he got the horn. I think he got the horn section to do it, didn't he?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
So. It was awesome. And so we're going to do a little prologue. We're going to be.
Now, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Seeing as he got that, does that kind of come into the superfan discussion?
He's well on his way.
All right, so I'll note to self: start making David Hyde certificate.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay.
I said he's well on his way. It's It's almost a done deal. He's just he's on probation right now.
You can start
he's kind of on deck.
Here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to do a podcast with him because David Hyde has as much enthusiasm as Uncle Dave. So I'm going to do a podcast with Uncle Dave and David Hyde and see how that goes. And if he manages to weather that storm, then we'll make him a super fan.
That'd be one of the good podcasts. We just kind of toss out a topic and we can sit back and have a couple beers while they go.
Yeah, kind of like tonight.
There you go. Similar.
Do you like curved fascias? 10 minutes later.
Next time I'll just say yes.
Yeah. Do you like gladiator movies, Billy? I think that's it. Are you ready, Chris?
I think so.
All right. So remember, a Modeler's Life podcast is considered marginally adequate by 6 out of 10
overthinking modelers.
Modeler's Life is sponsored by Because I Love Sushi, with 7 convenient locations in the greater Busted Knuckle area.
It's another Lincoln Homer.